Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the New Earth Leadership Summit, inspiring spiritual entrepreneurs like you to step into their personal power so that they can become the leaders of New Earth. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have my bestie here, Rach Wilson, who is a next level relationship coach. And she helps her clients get back their time and energy, build a stronger foundation in faith, and increase their profit and ignite passion in their relationships so they can truly have it all. So welcome, Rach.
Oh, so happy to be here.
Yes, it's like the good old times. Rach and I used to do weekly shows together. We had a good time.
Feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, it's so much fun, isn't it?
It was really fun. So I'm so excited to have you back. And for people who are meeting Rach for the first time, Rach, can you tell us a little bit about your story about how you became this next level relationship coach?
Well, I've been divorced once, so that's a big learning in itself. And I've been with my current husband for nearly 21 years. And there were many things that I learned from my first relationship. And a lot of it was about what not to do and how things don't work. But yeah, I made a decision that I was going to, my next relationship, particularly my next, long-term relationship, was going to have everything that I needed, and it was going to be a thriving relationship. I was going to be happy. I could be myself. That was something that I lost in the first one. And I met my current husband only 4 months later. So when we got into that relationship, I'm like, right, we're going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I started reading all the books. I started learning as much as I could. And it was a long journey for myself because I had to face my own crap. It's like, oh, okay, it wasn't just him that was the problem in the last relationship. I contributed a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And as time went on, I decided I wanted to become a life coach. I went from doing IT, so a bit of a shift into life coaching, and that gave me a lot of tools, and I was working on myself, a lot of personal development stuff. It also helped with my communication and all of that sort of stuff. So that made our relationship even better. And then back in 2008, our relationship moved into a different space in a new way, and I decided that I would then help other people with their relationships, because ours was going so amazingly, and everybody was saying, "Oh, you're the perfect couple. You were just how do you do what you do? Like, how does your relationship work?" And we used to get those questions all the time. So I started to share that information and share what I'd learned from making mistakes, but also what I learned when I was passionate about getting it right this time, because I didn't want to go through another divorce, breakup. It just was not happening. And so then it sort of started me relationship coaching from 2008 to 2014. And I got in the media, I did a book, I was, all over the world. And then our lives shifted. My first husband, God rest his soul, he passed away. And that gave me a whole other perspective of new things that I wanted to learn as to why he actually took his own life, and it was because of the relationship he was in that he got to that level. So it took me down into a deeper path of personal transformation and healing, because I'm like, what happened to get him to that point? Why was he so in such pain, and what could have been different and prevented this? Because we have a daughter together. And in that process, I then delved really deeply into personal transformation and deep level healing, healing all the emotional stuff and really understanding everything at a subconscious level. So then I started adding that to what I do. And for a while there, I worked with Therese. We did spiritual coaching, business coaching, working with people on their mindset and their business. And I loved that. And then we decided to go back and have 2 more children. So I had to move into mum space, and Therese carried on and blossomed into what she's doing. So it's been a bit of a journey. And after 3 years off having children and going through our own struggles because of our kids and the strain it put on our relationship and having to rebuild again, here I am back now doing relationships again, but I've got so much more experience and understanding of particularly with families, couples that have got kids. Both my children are autistic and have got some other challenges. So there's a whole box and dice of experience that I now bring to every couple that I work with, whether they're newly together, in a family, got kids with challenges, or being an entrepreneur, which brings another challenge to itself. So that's my story. Here I am. What I do.
And she's still alive.
I'm still here.
No, Rach is incredible. And I have to say, I'm so lucky because Rach and I worked as business partners for several years. And that's a difficult relationship as well. I mean, I used to joke that Rach was my wife because that's how close you get with someone when you are in business with them. And I just think it's such a testament to, to both of us, but especially to the level of wisdom Rach brought to our relationship, that, to be able to do a business together, have it grow, and then transition into our own paths and still be friends. It says so much, right? Because these are difficult, partnerships. In like the zodiac, for example, there's a whole house that's just dedicated to partnership because it's such a big part of our lives. And we know that as we evolve, as we go forward in energy into higher levels of consciousness, that relationships don't just fall to the wayside. They actually become more of a focus. Our relationships really start to be our everything, because right. And we're recognizing, right, that we are one. We are definitely connected. So let's talk about how you're starting to bring that energy in for people now, as we're working out of the 3D level and moving up into 4D. How are you guiding people to really step into more of a new earth type of relationship?
Yeah, well, step number one is to allow the relationships to show you what is going on inside of you. Now, relationships, people move and evolve and change. We're going through a phase right now where all of your shit is going to be triggered, and guaranteed your partner, your family are going to be the best triggers for you. So this is a beautiful time to allow those triggers to surface so that you know what you need to heal and work on within yourself. Now, I want to put a caveat to that. Not all triggers are because you've got unhealed stuff. Sometimes what's triggering you is the fact that they have violated one of your boundaries or your values. And all that means is that you need to recognize that and go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not being a part of that. That is not okay with me. And to hold your zone, your space. So relationships are really revealing right now. And that's extremely important, because as we move through 3D, 4D to 5D, we actually have to clean up as much of our subconscious stuff. We have to let go of as many attachments as possible. We have to build new relationships with people with a better understanding as to accepting people as they are, allowing everyone to have their own thoughts and experiences, and allow ourselves to be in a place of non-judgment, not just with other people, but with ourselves. And these beautiful inner circle relationships that trigger stuff to come up are the perfect mechanism for that growth, that healing, and that evolution to move into a space where we can be living this kind of peace on earth that we all talk about, where everybody is understanding, compassionate, patient, loving. It's the ideal. But in order to get there, we've got to go through the shit. We've got to be better than we've never been, better than we've ever been. And everybody kind of needs to work together in this process to get us all there. And it's absolutely possible. We're just in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there was a couple of things that came up in what you just said. The second one is it's right there at the forefront of my brain, but it won't come out. So I'll go back to the first point that I wanted to ask. So you had talked about with triggers, it's not always about your stuff. It's sometimes someone is crossing a boundary. So that made me want to ask the question, what do you think boundaries in 4D look like? Do we have boundaries? Are they going to be different? What do you think? Just out of your intuition, what do you feel?
Out of my intuition, in 4D, yes, still. In 5D, not so. We're always going to be individual entities, even in 5D. So we would like to think that by the time everybody gets into 5D, that there's not this jealousy or insecurity and all of that stuff playing out anymore. We're still clearing it in the 3-4D space. 4D is still polarizing in many ways, but it's polarizing so we can see what we need to work on. and what we need to do in order to get to 5D. By the time we get to 5D, it's like everybody plays nicely at that stage. That's my perception of it. Certainly the people that I find that have really done the work, that have got that higher level of maturity, that's how it is. We go, this is what I think. Oh, that's what you think. That's okay. That's not exactly what I think, but that's okay to think that way.
Yeah.
So there's none of that judgment or insecurity or any of that internal stuff that's, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of judgment, fear of all the things that no longer exists when you've done all the healing that has been triggered by 3D into 4D, cleared it up. So 5D, you've got this higher level maturity that these don't need to exist. But in 4D, we still need to know who we are. We need to know where our boundaries are, what our values are, so that if someone who's still working that shit out hasn't quite got there, you're able to go, no. And you are a part of, as we all are, we're a part of other people's healing, and being able to reflect back to them what they still have to work on and heal.
It's funny. I was just thinking, about before we hit the recording, we were talking about relationships still being important in 4D, and actually that it's, or did we say it before the recording? I am having a moment where I just stepped out of time. We either said it on the recording or before.
We said it.
It was said. It has been spoken. That, as we move into 4D, relationships don't take a back seat. They actually become the forefront. And in the Law of One, they talk about how 4D is the lessons of love. So I have a question for you. So if the Law of One speaks and says 4D are the lessons of love and all of the lessons of love, just from your own personal experience of what you've gathered, how you've taught, how you've coached people, what would you suspect some of the lessons of love are?
One of them is self-love. Like, everybody can be really good at loving other people, but when it comes to their own self-love, which means self-care, taking time out from taking care of others to take care of the self, that balance between giving and receiving. I mean, these are some of the big lessons that I'm seeing a lot of within relationships, but also in a bigger context too. It's also, self-love, not overworking, getting driven and doing a bunch of stuff. It's going, okay, actually I need rest time. It's learning to ask for what I need, another lesson. So there's all of that within there. Within the relationship, it's also that one of the lessons is being able to love someone and support someone without sacrificing myself. And find, communication. How do we, if we've got two different purposes that take us in two different directions, how do we continue as a couple in a relationship where I'm supporting you in your purpose and you're supporting me in my purpose, but it might be in some kind of mismatch or conflict. So it's that, negotiation. It's not really a compromise. It's really about how do we do this together in a way that feels good for both of us. One of the other lessons is attachment. Like looking at how we're attaching to our partner and whether or not that's a healthy attachment, because there is a healthy attachment, and there's definitely a lot of unhealthy attachments, which is where the codependency starts to come in. So we're really starting to see where we're being codependent and where we're being too independent, which is the other one. There's two extremes there. What else in terms of lessons? The basic stuff like being able to communicate and share thoughts and feelings. Being vulnerable is a huge lesson in all relationships. And it's not just, when I say relationships, this isn't just a partnership. We're talking about friendships are going through the same things. Family relationships are going through the same things. Business partners, colleagues are going through the same things. All of these lessons you will learn in every kind of relationship that you have in your life. A lot of people think only of their partnership and don't do the same level of work with their friendships or their colleagues or business partners. So I think that's what's really going to be coming out in this next phase, is to understand relationships at a much deeper level and how they are the core of everything, because they reflect back to us what we're needing to work on. At the same time, they fill our bucket. They allow us to feel even more love, even more joy. And when we're at that higher vibration, well, what else happens? Then great things happen in our lives. Opportunities show up. All the things that happen when we get into this beautiful flow with life. I believe comes down to the quality of the relationships we have with the people in our life, but also with ourselves. And these relationships will always reflect what we're not doing well on.
So true. It's so true. Our relationships are that, and they say that they're all contracted, right? So we all got together before we got here and we're like, right, you're going to be my friend, I'm going to be your friend, we're going to have this kind of relationship, these are going to be our peak issues, and this is what you bring and this is what I'll bring.
You're the good guy, you're the bad guy, you're going to piss me off, you're going to break my heart, you're going to all of them.
Yeah.
I didn't read the fine print though, I'm sure.
And it's so funny because I remember hearing, and it was in one of Dolores Cannon's books, she was talking about how when we get over to the other side, we find out that like people who maybe seemed to be our greatest nemesis in our life is actually our like spiritual best friend.
Bestie friend.
Yeah. So you never know. You just never know what the relationships around you, even the ones that you deem as like really triggering or polarizing or upsetting, you never know how it's actually in service to your highest good.
I think that's part of the journey, really getting into 5D. By the time you get to 5D and beyond, you have that understanding. Like you get to a place of being able to forgive. That's still a 4D thing, that we're still in the throes of forgiveness and realizing where we're still holding on to that. But you hurt me, you pissed me off. That part we're still moving through, we're still releasing and getting to a place of forgiveness and understanding the bigger picture. Because once you get to 5D and above, you see the bigger picture, you understand the context, you understand the greater good, and really the trigger of growth is probably the best way to put it. A lot of those people, those situations were triggers for growth. Whether we grew through them or we hid under our doona and decided, I'm not doing this, it's up to us. But as we move towards 5D, I mean, this is all the part of the process of moving to 5D, is being able to let all of that go, to see that person for the role that they played in the bigger picture, not for the thing that they did in that moment that felt yucky.
Oh yeah, absolutely. God, it's such a good point. I was having a conversation with someone where I was showing them that, some of the people in our life that we are like, why are they so, why don't they understand me? Why do I have so much friction with this person? Why is it every time I'm around you, I feel a certain way? And what my team has said to this person is, that's because they promise to be catalyst in your life to get you to grow in the direction you desire to grow in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, because this person was so shut down, it made you want to open your heart up really wide, which was the direction you desired to go in. So it's so interesting. Our relationships, I mean, the deeper we go into higher energy, the clearer we can start to see that nothing on the surface is what it is. That if we just stop and be with it for a moment, we're going to see the magic behind maybe the madness we're experiencing, that there's magic behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
And that brings me to my next question, which is, so one of the points of the summit is to help people to stand in their personal power. So what does that look like when we're talking about standing in our personal power when we're in relationship with another person?
What does that look like? So again, I come back to, clearing all your own fears and your subconscious stuff, because for me, that is the basis for why we feel insecure, why we're judging the other person, why we go into defense mode when they say something and because we're triggered. So standing in our power is really choosing to do that level of healing work, choosing to allow those upsets to be a opportunity for us to go, oh, okay, what's that really about? They're just the trigger, they're not the problem. So that for me is a big part of it. The other part of that is standing in our power is, again, kind of what I was saying when I was talking about the lessons, is knowing that we can ask for what we want, ask for what we need from our partner, and also be always willing to listen to what they're asking for. So you can always find that beautiful balance of filling each other's needs and buckets for whatever you can. But also standing in my power is taking care of me. It's putting myself first wherever I can, that, I was going to say that makes sense, but I'm thinking of it in terms of a mother. There are times where you can't put yourself first because the kids come first in that moment. But it's knowing, creating that balance and putting ourselves first. Because when we're rested, when we have our bucket full because we've taken time to be creative, or we've taken ourselves for a walk and we've taken care of our bodies so our bodies have got energy. Being in our power is really about feeling healthy and vibrant. It's also about knowing our boundaries and saying, well, yes, I can, being asked by someone, hey, I'd love for you to come out for the weekend, let's do this. And it's like, yeah, actually, no, I really need to stay indoors, like stay home this weekend, I need to recharge. So being able to be really, truly honest and without fear of being judged or rejected, or without fear of the other person getting triggered into their stuff and are projecting all over you. I think that's probably the best way to, multiple aspects of, when you're in your power, they're all the elements for me that I see, that I know that if all of that's taken care of, I'm absolutely within my power in that moment.
I think you just hit on something really big there, because we've all been in that experience, and that sort of lower frequency experience of we're not taking care of our needs. So we start leaning on people to take care of it for us, because we recognize we have needs that are not being met, but we had forgotten that we had the power to meet those needs ourselves, and that our relationships aren't necessarily about filling holes in us. Right. And I think that's very much old paradigm, where we're like, remember, we saw ourselves like, I'm half a heart.
You
like, where's the other?
me. No, you don't fucking complete me. I am complete and you are complete. And together we enhance.
That's right. That's right. Then we're on fire. Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, it's, and one of the things that just keeps coming up over and over again, each of these interviews I'm doing, is like, we know this stuff, and it's quite simple if we would just listen. If we would just listen to ourselves, and if we would just understand that we've overcomplicated it. So I mean, I don't know if you want to speak to that why do we overcomplicate this? Why is that just where we came from? Is that just the vibration and the programming we were under, or was there a purpose for overcomplicating it?
I think there's a mixture of things. I think, the way that the world and the human body and the human mind and the collective is all set up and has been to this point. Now it's changing, things are changing, but, we've been around for 40-ish years. And the programming and everything that, I know it's ish, 30 something, really. Yeah. So the programming that we move through, like we know on a subconscious level that, a big part of our programs and all the deepest stuff that we are ever going to have to heal is programmed in that first 7 years through the things that we're seeing, the people in our lives, the teachers, the family, the dynamics, everything that we grow up observing and absorbing makes our core programs. So this is the first kind of couple of generations where we're actively, personal development world came in, and now we're starting to take control of, oh crap, that's my stuff, that's my program, that's not actually how the world worked, or that's not actually what my partner's saying or doing. So that's a big part of the complication right there, is we're unraveling a lot of deep stuff. And we've had for decades, we've had parents who are damaged, who have got trauma, unhealed trauma, then bringing up new kids with their trauma patterns. Then we've got more kids bringing up their kids with their trauma patterns and any other trauma they've picked up along the way. And then the world's changed. So there's been wars and there's been all the stuff. So we've got generations of unhealed trauma that has been coming through and has created an environment, as internally and externally, for a lot of this to play out. The beautiful thing about now is we are the people who are unraveling that. We are changing the way it's done. We are healing our own trauma and changing our patterns. So the next few generations will continue to do that and continue to make it less complicated. It will be so much simpler because they just won't be coming in, grabbing all this stuff, loading themselves up with baggage, and then moving into a relationship that it gets triggered, and then children, and we're reversing that, or we're healing that, or we're changing that now, which is really exciting to kind of be a part of that.
It is. And it gives me a lot of hope, and I have a lot of love for humanity, because I see us stepping up to the plate. And that's such a great segue to the next question, because, I'm talking about leadership. So stepping up to the plate, obviously about leadership, but what does leadership look like in relationship?
So there's a couple of ways you can look at leadership in a relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that one person is a dominant and a submissive, just to clear the deck on that one. Leadership is walking my talk. It is when I say that I'm going to, if we have a misunderstanding or a disagreement or something where we've got to, recalibrate and go, okay, well, in future, if this happens again, I'm going to do X and you're going to do Y. Leadership is following through. Leadership is me taking responsibility to be the best person that I can be for myself, but also to be the best kind of partner I can be for my husband, and him doing the same thing. Sometimes it's one that's inspiring the other and the other one supporting. So there's this beautiful flow, and leadership is flow. It's not always the person that's out in front. It's the way that you support the person who's out in front, or support each other in being leaders within your own lives, which is another aspect of leadership in a partnership. And then if you're a part of a family, well, then the leadership role is really both of you, and how that you are showing your children how to feel their emotions, how to communicate what they need and what they want, how to come to a place of resolution when things are a little bit out of kilter and upsets, and someone's done something wrong. How do you apologize? How do you rebuild that level of trust? And this is all leadership qualities. And I think some of the best leaders, often we think of it in a work context, but it absolutely works in all contexts. The best leaders are the ones that sit and listen, that will hear you when you say, I'm struggling with this, who will help to come up with a solution and you do it together. They're the ones that inspire you to be your best self. They encourage you to do anything that you feel desire to do. They create an environment where you can thrive to the best of their ability, but they also help give you the tools to do a lot of it yourself. It's not about them being at the front. It's actually about how can I lift everybody up, and everybody can step into being a leader for themselves, either in their lives or in their work or in their relationships. So that for me is that's stellar leadership right there, and every relationship is an opportunity for leadership.
It reminds me, I've actually said this a couple of times, but it's so perfect. It reminds me of how the wolf pack operates. So the alpha wolf walks at the back of the pack. So that literally answers, like, how do I lift everyone up, right? So it's the same identity with, like, the team is you're only as strong as your weakest member. And so the strongest doesn't lead by exerting strength, but rather sharing their strength with someone who needs it.
Yep, their strength, their wisdom, their ideas, their resources. These are all the things that leaders do. And it's exciting because we are moving into a space where we're having a lot more people becoming that level of leader, and everybody's lifting everybody else up together. So we're seeing it a lot, summits like these and different programs and people who are collaborating. We're seeing a lot more collaboration, which is exciting. I love collaboration because everybody's like, well, what's your gift? What's your gift? What's your gift? How can we collectively support each other? Like, how can I support you? These are some of the questions that we're seeing from, definitely the New Earth type of leadership is, how can I support you? How can I be more real conversations rather than sales pitches, more encouragement, support, even if you're not a client for me, well, it's how can I support you anyway? These are the things that I'm seeing in a New Earth kind of leadership, which is just beautiful.
Absolutely. And it makes sense, right? Because as we move deeper and deeper into fourth density, the ego is being left behind. So our old perception of leadership was
needing
like,
to be the winner, needing to be the front, all of that.
I'm the best, I'm the top, I'm at the peak, all of that stuff. And again, going back to like law of one, and they're talking about what fourth density looks like, and they're saying it takes time. So we're not like going to immediately become this next phase of ourselves, but they said more and more we work as a collective to the point at which we stop really individualizing. And that, I don't think that necessarily means we don't have individual soul signature, because that doesn't actually resolve until we get to the end of seventh density. But that stops being the priority, right? The need to individualize drops away with third density. The further we go, like you said, it's all about collaboration. It's about the win-win, or what one of my other guests, Deborah Giusti, said, which I really love. She said the win-win-win, which is I win, you win, and what we do together wins.
Yeah, that's what I like. I've used that before too. Same thing. Perfect. Yes.
I love that.
Win-win-win.
I love that. So it's really that stepping out of the ego. And you actually answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I think I could squeeze more out of you if I ask. We squeeze the knowledge out. So you had brought up a lot of things that we can do to step into leadership, but what are some concrete steps? If I were to say, Rach, I want to step into my leadership in I'm going to say my marriage, because that's just an easy one to think of. What are some things I don't know what to do? Help me. How do I step into leadership in my marriage?
So I think when it comes to the marriage, leadership would be to look at, the balance in the relationship. Like where is the give and take? So looking at the giving and receiving. Are you giving, and are you allowing yourself to receive? Are you asking for what you need and what you want? Or do you find yourself rationalizing, coming up with some reason why you can't ask or shouldn't ask? That's usually what happens. I would also look at, and seriously ask yourself the question, how am I showing up in this marriage? Am I being my best self? Where am I not feeling my best? Am I, and this could be as simple as, I've put on some weight and I'm not really energized. And this is something I've had to work on just recently is, okay, well, I haven't had the energy. All right, so what do I need to do? I need to be the one that starts to do some exercises, change the way I'm eating. And what's happened is my husband has said, well, how can I support you? So we're eating the same things. He nudges me to go, well, have you done your exercises today? Because sometimes getting started in exercise is hard. Right. So looking at where you're also supporting each other. And am I supporting him or her? Am I also supporting myself? So looking at kind of the balances, and if you're looking at these areas, then you can start to get really real about, where you're not showing up as a fantastic leader in your relationship. The other thing would be what's the vision for the relationship? Do you have couples goals? Do you have couples dreams? Sometimes we get caught up in the everyday. It's like, okay, well, now we've got the kids get to school, it's kind of Groundhog Day. Mm-hmm. But if you make time to sort of talk about the relationship and, do you want to see it deepening? Do you want to, once the kids are a bit older, do you want to be doing more travel? What do you want to do in your retirement? Start to have some of these conversations so you know where you want to be going. And another conversation is values, which can change over time. What's important to you now? What's important to me now? With each phase of life within the relationship, you've got the honeymoon period, which is different to the dating, which is different to now you've got children, now they've gotten older. Every phase has its own challenges. So it's a regular check-in to go, well, what's most important to you now? Where are you at? What do you want for your personal goals? And what do I want for my personal goals? And checking that we're able to support and encourage each other, but we're also still moving in the same direction. Sometimes that means for some people that it's time to call quits. Being really honest about the state of the relationship and the state of each individual person within it. Is the relationship now more damaging or holding one or both of them back? Because you've kind of outgrown it. You've both moved in different directions. You're different people from when you got together, and that's okay. This is the 5D way. It's okay. There is no judgment on that. We get together for different reasons. Sometimes the growth and the healing that we do gets us to a place of going, actually, we're not really right for each other anymore. And I love you enough to set you free on your own path to find someone who is more suited to who you are now. And I love myself enough to set myself free because I'm ready to find someone who is more ready for me and who I am now. So there's many ways that you can kind of step into leadership in your own relationship, but it's really about getting very, very almost brutally honest with yourself about where you're showing up, how you're showing up, where you're not giving or not receiving, not asking for what you want, taking care of yourself, and taking care and encouraging your partner or communicating too.
So even though we put that in the context of a marriage as an example, I could honestly see how you could use all of that in your partnerships, like your friendships and your business relationships, your client relationships, all of that.
Yep.
And I can see how this kind of self-evaluation, absolutely, I mean, it's what you would do with yourself to get clarity. I mean, getting clarity on your own values, checking back in, seeing if the values you said were important to you just 3 years ago actually resonate for us now. And I know for a lot of us during the whole pandemic thing, values got super clear, like so clear. Which was a blessing, right? That was a blessing, is like see really clearly, like, oh, all this stuff that I was like panicking and stressing about actually doesn't mean anything to me. This is what's important, which was, so.
I'd love to add just one more thing to that before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
If you've really got the balls, then you would sit down with the other person. When you work out, am I giving, receiving, you ask the other person whether or not they think the same thing that you do about your showing, how you're showing up in that relationship. I guarantee your partner or your friend or your business partner or your client may have a different perspective because it's coming through their filter system. So if you want to know how you're being perceived as showing up, then I would dare to ask the other person. And that will allow that to be giving you feedback. Know that each person's perspective is not the whole truth. Yours isn't the whole truth. Theirs isn't the whole truth. It's still coming through your filter system and any baggage either of you still have. But it may just stay open to what they do tell you, and then you can self-assess and go, is that really true? Or is that partially true? Giving you an idea of the things that you could work on to show up as a stronger leader.
I mean, that intuitively answers a question I had for you, which was, and then you might have more to add to this, but the question was about blind spots, because
yes, we all have them.
We got a filter. We don't fully see ourselves. There is the internal version of us that we're experiencing, which is very true and real. And then there is what we're expressing, which we can't see fully because it's all coming through my internal self and my perception of this. And so I'm expressing in this way, whereas other people are receiving it either kind of the same or very differently than what you think they're perceiving it as.
It's interesting, and I'll give you an example of exactly that. So I've been having conversations with a doctor, actually, because I had realized that I was kind of stuck in a functional depression, and been on a journey to kind of work out what's that really about, and taking steps to change that, and feeling so much better already. So in that process, I had one of my best friends come along to the appointment because she's got a different perspective of me to what I think's going on. And in it, both of them kind of said that I'm holding on to anger, because I was expressing anger. I'm like, no, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated. For me, there was a difference. Like, this is frustration. I know what angry feels like to me, and anger is over here. And for them, they were kind of looking at it and going, categorizing my version of frustration as anger and my version of anger as probably rage. Okay, well, I don't mean to come across angry, but then remembering that their perception is based on what they, how they categorize what anger looks like to them, the tonality, the words, the physical nature of it. So anybody could be looking at one person, and one person will say, oh, they're just frustrated. Another one will go, oh, they're angry. And another person will go, oh, they're raging. So that's a big thing, is to know my truth is not your truth, but somewhere in the middle the truth is, and we've got to be willing to open up to hearing more of someone else's perception to find the closer truth outside of our perception. Hope that makes sense.
It does. And I mean, it makes sense why also having somebody guiding you in relationships is
Oh,
important. I mean, just like guiding you in business, having someone
yeah.
guide you, it's the shortcut. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's like
tell me about it. I get the most growth when I work with other people. So whether it's, you and I have been great for each other in that way. We kind of worked with each other as well as worked with each other in the business.
Yeah.
But I've got my besties who are, lots of them are coaches and healers and all sorts of things. And then, business stuff, having someone on the outside of my head go, did you hear what you just said there? Oh, that's, for me, it's always been the quickest way to fixing something, to growing, to changing something, to be more successful or whatever it is that I'm working on. Having that person who's outside my fishbowl, I often call it the fishbowl of my head, they're able to see, looking into my fishbowl, oh, you've got that going on, and if you just do this, then that'll shift that. Awesome, thank you. Now we move forward. And same with people in relationships. When I've started talking to many couples, they don't really even see how bad their relationship is until someone like me looks at the outside of it and goes, actually, that's a bit of a red flag there, and that's a bit of a red flag there. And these are things that are not typically, healthy for a relationship. And when they get that information, there's the initial, oh, and now it's growth time. Now we can go, okay, that's what it is. Now we know where we need to go. Now we know that we can do this, and I will completely support you in getting to that space so the relationship is healthy and each person can thrive in it, and the relationship can thrive itself, which is a whole other level of love, connection, and adventure and excitement and passion and all the goodies.
And I just want to say to those who are listening, we're not meant to have all the answers individually. It's not designed that way. The universe and my team is just like kaping. So we're not meant to have all the answers. It's purposely designed so that you only have pieces of it, so that you will seek others, because collaboration. We're a communal species. We need each other intrinsically because we are one. We are connected. The whole goal is to try and find ourselves through each other again. So, when we're looking at relationship, or if we're listening to this and we're like, oh my God, there's so many things that I haven't done. I don't make a vision board for my relationship. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. It's the beautiful thing that, Rach holds the piece. She holds puzzle pieces around relationship. It's, it's her zone of genius and her gift. And so her being able to share this insight with us was designed that way, and this is how she is helping serve the collective. I feel it's important to say that, because sometimes, we all have relationships, and it's easy to think we're all supposed to be at that level, at your level, or at a level where someone's, we do comparison, right? Fun, destructive comparison. And so because we're in a relationship, we might hold that feeling like I should know better. I should know how, I should be good at this, maybe, because it's everybody has at least one or two or three relationships that are important in their life, at least. So what would you say to that feeling that could come up for people where they're like, I've really just screwed the pooch on this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing is, I went through a divorce before I worked shit out. I am not immune to making mistakes. And I know how to correct it. But at the same time, my zone of genius is in the relationship sector and the personal transformation, the deep healing. That's been my passion that has driven me there, that's gotten me to that level. At the same time, I have other areas of my life where I'm not so genius at them. But I've got other people in my life that are genius at those, but not genius at relationships. So it's funny, because I've got a good friend of mine. She's really good at business, and she's really good at really just making money and all that sort of stuff. That's not my zone of genius. Making money hasn't been my zone of genius. It's like it's finally starting to click now. But relationships has always been my zone of genius. So she comes to me for relationship stuff, and I go to her for business stuff. And that's how our relationship works. That's how we give and take in many ways. So that's how it's meant to be. Like everybody, I've got 2 children who are neurodiverse, and in the neurodiversity world, you can see they've got extreme genius in all these other areas, but they may not even be able to cope with being around crowds or loud noises, or they've got sensory issues, which means they're really introvert. So they don't deal with people, but they're extremely good at coding. I mean, that's a stereotypical thing, but they might be really good at writing or really good at art or one of those things. My dad, love him, hope he never watches this for this reason. He's extremely good at computers and IT. But as a teenager, I used to call him domestically stupid because he had no idea how to nurture, how to connect, how to care for a child in the way that my mother did. So every one of us has a gift. Every one of us has a talent, a strength, and we are meant to lean on each other for those strengths when we have a weakness in that area. And we all have weaknesses somewhere in some area in our lives. So there is nothing wrong with any of us that we haven't got this relationship thing sorted. And the other part to that is, like I was saying earlier, we have grown up with parents who are damaged. And some of us have had, not so much me, my parents are damaged, but not as damaged as other people's parents who have been fully abused and many other atrocities. So we've had damaged people rearing damaged people, rearing damaged people. So for that reason, there's a lot of unpacking and rewiring to do in the relationship sector. A lot of people have not got it down. And because it's not been a program to seek help, to know that relationships could be so much more different. There's still many people that are not reaching out for help with their relationship because they just don't know what they don't know. They're living the same kind of relationship that they grew up with, and it's okay. Like, they're living, but they're not thriving. And I think that's the difference. You don't have to have relationship problems to seek someone like me. It's about up-leveling the relationship, taking it to another level, going another level for yourself.
That's such a good point. I want to emphasize that. Say that again. You don't need to have problems. So go ahead, finish that statement.
You don't need to have serious relationship problems to seek someone like me who can help you do even better with your communication, do even better with your giving and taking, do even better with asking for what you need, building a relationship that is not just okay, but building a relationship that's thriving, that you can thrive in, that the passion, the happiness, the joy, the love, the connection is all up here, like epic level.
So you make such a good point. It's like all coming in for me. I'm like, oh my God, all we've ever been shown when it comes to relationships or fixing them, and I'm looking at TV shows, I'm looking at movies, I'm looking at social media and the way that we talk about it, is that you don't go and seek advice or help until it's in the shitter.
Oh,
that's when you go, and then usually it's ineffective, right? That's what they show us. It's
so much
too late
stuff to work on by that point. Yeah,
right.
And that's the hard part. I do have couples that come to me and they really should have seen me 3, 4, 5 years ago, even at the beginning there, when they first got married or even before, because we could have changed the foundation, which would have then stopped the damage, which would have stopped someone cheating, which would have stopped all of that. So yeah, it's the most effective when you realize you've got some issues. Maybe you could do better at communication, or maybe you're not even sure, but you don't feel like you're thriving. Great. That's a great time to engage me or someone like me to change the foundational stuff. So all you ever do is grow together instead of destroying each other and growing apart. It's such a costly exercise to go through divorce, on a financial level, on an emotional level, on a mental level. It just can be decimating for all involved, and most of it can be totally avoided.
So I have this idea. It's kind of off script for me, but I want to do this right now because I think it would be really powerful. We've seen the old paradigm. So if we were to create a new paradigm, let's say we were to create a movie or a television show that had a couple in it, and we wanted to literally show people. So, seeing it through examples, one of our best, we're mimickers, right? We mimic what we see.
Yep.
So let's pretend you and I are producing a television show about relationships or couples, and we're showing them having a real relationship. But instead of waiting and inspiring the drama and the epic blow up at the end and the sad tear walking away.
Oh my God.
Instead of doing that, what could we show if we were creating a New Earth television show about relationships, trying to help pattern people for higher relationships? What would we be showing them?
Um, what would be awesome is almost like working with couples who are planning to get married and doing let's really look at the state of their relationship and look at the state of the way that they communicate, be kind of a fly on the wall with their relationship, kind of like the nanny. But it's not at the point where the kids are like unruly. It's like right at the beginning of the relationship to pinpoint the various areas that, they could tweak, do differently, build like these amazing, strong foundations in the relationship so that no matter what storm, what curveball, what anything life throws at them, they come together through it rather than falling apart because of it. And I think that would be amazing. So it could be a multi sort of faceted show. We could start with that group and go, train, teach, show them. And obviously the audience would learn the same tools and techniques.
Yeah.
And then work with other couples where they're going through a life storm, a sudden terminal illness. For us, we had 2 children with significant challenges that meant sleep deprivation for a year and more. We call it hell year. We survived hell year because we had the foundations in our relationship for us to get through it, but it rocked us. The most rocky our relationship has ever been, and that is probably better than most relationships are in general. So if we could show the audience how to come together through extraordinary circumstances, that the curveballs and the storms. And I think that, even just those 2, a series of seeing different couples in different circumstances, showing the different aspects, but bringing it all back down to the solid foundation of communication, of giving, receiving, of flowing with life together, how to be a team. I think all of those, and also talking about, understanding each other at a deeper level. What's your love language? What's your attachment style? And also then understanding what their stuff is, their baggage, and how that's playing out in their relationship in the beginning, let alone anywhere else, and getting them connected with the right people to help them work on that. I
want to watch that show. Like, we need to figure out like, we're both.
If anybody out there is a producer and would like to take this on as a show idea, we are ready.
We're ready. We got ideas for you. This is so good. I mean, honestly, I love that. And I just love to sit with that for a minute and just think about, man, what we're going to be broadcasting, because we're still going to want entertainment. We're still going to want to have our movies and our TV for a while, I would assume. But how exciting to think that instead of focusing on the drama and the falling apart and getting, emotionally triggered and all that stuff, instead we're showing people real relationships and how to grow together, how to grow stronger, how to support each other, how to be in integrity, which, when Rach says, walk your talk, I mean, that's integrity right there. And that's where we're heading. And I just think seriously, I'm having this moment where I'm like, God, that would be an incredible service to other people to be able to show each other that. And I mean, we've been so conditioned to think that we need it to be dramatic and hard or emotional for entertainment purposes. And I honestly can see that. I think we're all done with that now. We've had enough drama.
Yeah, no, I mean, what's happening right now is the Johnny Depp Amber Heard. It's Amber Heard.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't watched any of it.
You can see I've totally been like enthralled in it. But the snippets that I've seen are basically 2 people who have got some significant baggage, being triggered and reacting from that baggage or reacting from those emotions, and it's been extremely destructive. And the more destructive it is, it's almost like then it's like this one-upping. Well, you did this to me, you did this to me, and it's never going to end.
That's
so we're moving out of that shit now. We're all done with it. And we're on a global scale, we're seeing this where it comes to so many people going, why are we going to war? Like, what is the point? And realistically, it's the leaders that are currently in power, the level of maturity and their vibration is what's playing out, but they're dragging all these other people into it. But we're seeing a lot more people go, we don't need to do that. Like, we just don't need that anymore. Why don't we just sit down and have a discussion, which surely we can come to an arrangement or a win-win. So we're seeing the level of maturity, the vibration really kicking up, but it's still moving its way around the globe. In 5D world, we won't have people who are in power or leadership roles that don't have that high level of maturity, who have cleared a lot of their baggage, who can have these, adult conversations and be able to ask for what they need, to be non-judgmental, to work together, to collaborate. The world's going to be really different once that level of vibration reaches the top. It's happening at the bottom. Like, that vibration is going from the bottom up, not the top down.
And I almost wonder if there will be a top anymore, because the more of us that step into our personal sovereignty, which is our personal power, is our sovereignty, you're self-led. So if you're self-led and you're a leader, do we really need a structure, a hierarchical structure? I mean, this is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I think, we're going to see it's more collaborative. It's like everybody's coming together to go, okay, well, like there's an example, Africa has places where they don't have enough food. We come together and go, oh, well, what do you need? Oh, you need food. Well, we've got heaps. That country over there has got some, we can send some to you. I mean, that's the level of collaboration we're going to be seeing. And that's the way it should be, is we are one humanity. We need to be helping everybody.
Yeah. And this is our instinctive nature too, because if you watch small children, that's how they act. It's like, they understand the concept of sharing. It's funny. I think the sharing thing that we hear through like children's programming is more for adults. More for some adults, but no, I mean, I feel that shift. It's already happening. So, and we're speaking to a group of people who this is not your issue, about, how, what's new paradigm, what's old paradigm. That's not it. It's more about finding in yourself that you actually have got this, that you actually, and it's that self-awareness that really brings it in. It really helps you ground into that. So I have another question for you, and that's, what do you think is one tangible step that we could all take that would help us achieve our vision that we're holding of New Earth or 5D Earth or whatever you want to call it?
One tangible step.
Yeah,
see, for me, because I know that we're naturally mature. We're naturally, like, that's our natural state of being, is to collaborate, to encourage, to support. What gets in the way is our baggage. So whatever baggage we've got, whatever stuff is unhealed, whatever patterns that are unhealthy in us, that is the one thing that is getting in the way. And it's only the brave who turn around and face that and choose to heal it, dissolve it, resolve it, whatever has to happen for that to no longer be what they're bringing to the table.
That's a good point.
Everything changes from there.
And everything is, it's so interesting because, and of course the robots know us so well. So I'm like thinking about social media, but my robots are always bringing me, here's some breath work. Here's how to heal your vagus nerve. Here's trauma work. Here's all these things. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's all out there.
Yeah.
It's all out there for us to access. And I feel like more than ever in life, we have support tools for that. We have tools that we can use. And we also have a lot of people stepping into the placeholder position of like, I'm here to hold space for you to clear this. And that's the first form of collaboration that's coming through. And with that, I want to just ask you, so after this conversation, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, okay, I want to know more. I want to know how I can start being, taking this leadership role in my relationships, whether it's my intimate relationships or my business relationships or interpersonal. So how can someone be so lucky to work with you?
You can reach out to Therese and maybe they'll pass on my private number. No, don't do that. The best place to find me is my website. There's definitely contact forms. There's a bunch of stuff there, and that's constantly growing and evolving. So even between now and when everything goes live, there'll be something new on there. So it's divinerelating.com. So divinerelating.com. So that's where you'll find me. That's the easiest place to connect. And then social media and et cetera, but yeah, go there.
Fantastic. And you told me you have a special gift for people who are watching today. So can you tell them a little bit about this gift that you're bringing?
Yes, this is my Relationship Saver ebook, which goes into the basics of what the relationship, what you need in order to build an epic relationship. And particularly for those who are entrepreneurs as well, I tell you how to balance your business, which could be your career or whatever work you're doing. You can see it as that as well, but how to have a thriving career and a thriving relationship without sacrificing either one. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, but in it, I share the 5 key things that are really important for you to be able to thrive in your relationship and life realistically. So yeah, you can come onto my website, you'll be able to, and there'll be a link for Therese to share with you to get access to that book. And then from there, there's a lot of different options. So ultimately, if you'd like to, even in the book, at the end of the book, you'll be given the opportunity to book a virtual coffee, tea, wine, whiskey, whatever time of day it is for you, to talk about your current relationship and what you're struggling with, and for me to be able to give you some kind of idea of what you can do, but also how I could help you.
This is incredible. That is such a great share, because, Rachel's been talking with you this whole time about how to build these incredible foundations in your relationship. And she's literally giving you the tools right here. And all you have to do is sign up to get that ebook. So I highly encourage it so that you can start stepping into the leadership in your relationship, really creating the thriving relationships that you desire, rather than thinking like you just have to accept what is. What if it can be better?
It could be so much better, so much better.
So you guys probably can tell that I've absolutely loved having Rach on the show with me. It's been like old times again. I love it.
Same. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share just my thoughts and feelings on relationships and leadership in New Earth. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of you who are watching. I so appreciate you being here with us during this conversation. I hope you got a couple of jewels out of this, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode of the New Earth Leadership Summit. Stay magical.